Do 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 do. Hello, hello, hello. 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 Real. Like, just keep it real. What's going on, y'all? It's Miss Keisha. I'm here. I'm live. And I'm feeling fantastic. Again, so we're just gonna jump right into it. Um, I'm still telling my story, and this is gonna be part two. As we all know, last week my baby boy was here, and it was his last night, so we kind of did like a mother son thing, which was dope. And I miss him. I'm not gonna tell him a lie. I miss him. I don't get to see him much in the flesh. I see him every day on FaceTime, but I don't get to see him much in the flesh. But I totally enjoyed him being here and us getting to spend time and stuff like that. So we're going to just jump right into it because these are going to be 30-minute sessions. So when we left off from part one, we left off with, how everything panned out, how I got to South Carolina. So okay, me and Erica are on good terms now. Things are going good. I got a great job. I'm, with family. Things for the most part was going good. Till they wasn't. So, um, I originally started going to church with my mother um, at our family church, so to speak. And I just didn't. Anybody that knows me know that like I was a Bible believer. I was a Bible thumper. I was yeah, truly a Bible thumper. I wasn't real spiritual at the time. But I wasn't, really. I didn't think that my spirit was really being fed. Now I know that God was preparing me for an experience He was about to take me through. So, my cousin, one of my younger cousins, she had invited me to a singles event at another church. So I went, enjoyed myself. The people were great. It was a smaller church. It was a smaller church. It was like family. And, I like that because we've always, years ago, we was a part of a larger church, but we've always been a part of smaller churches. So I started going there. Then eventually I joined and everything was good. Everything was great. I'm serving on the ministries because I am a greeter. I like to be at the door to welcome people, to help people in. And so, I was working on my ministries and stuff. And me and the pastor's wife had gotten close. She was like a big sister to me. Yeah, so, everything was great. And then maybe almost a year in, I got a phone call that's that said, well, I had been told by various people that they felt like God had a calling on my life to preach. I just never felt that. I never felt like God told me that He was going to prepare me to preach. But I didn't denounce, someone in authority, a spiritual authority, telling me that. So, uh, fast forward, we're like a year into the membership here, and things were going good. By now, my daughter is living in South Carolina. My son is back, so he's there. We're all living together. Journey's born. All of this, right? So, very supportive church. Great people. Just like any place, there you don't have those ones or twosies. And I've always had an issue for some ungodly reason with, yeah, well, I wouldn't even throw that in there. But anyway, so about a year in, I got a call from the pastor's wife. And she said to me that God had laid it on her heart that she needed to mentor me to walk into my calling, which was to preach. And um, she told me that God had revealed to her that when people see me, they would think that they were seeing her. So, it kind of took me back a little bit because I was like, um, God ain't tell me that. And then I was also like, why? If we're supposed to be made in the image of God, why would God tell you that He's going to make me to be where when I talk and I preach, people are going to see you? So, but I didn't say nothing. I was obedient to what she said. And, then things started moving kind of fast. And she wanted me to step in these different roles, and which I did, and I did, share my concerns with her about how I felt like there were times when she wanted me to be her armor bearer. And I did share my concerns that, I didn't want to start anything or make anybody else feel uncomfortable that was already in those positions, that had trained and, did for those positions. And, she understood or whatever. It wasn't a big deal. And then I started having issues with, well, I wouldn't say started having. I had some people in the ministry started having issues with me. Like my ministry, we did all the paperwork because you have to, the church is a business, so the church you have to request certain things. You just can't come up with an idea and do stuff in church, right? So for the back to school that year, my ministry, the girls wanted to do backpacks for the little children. And so they got together, we got the money together, they brought what they were supposed to, they filled it up. I did all the paperwork. Where was another minister who, at a leadership meeting with nothing but the leadership, he felt some kind of way because he says that he had planned to do the back to school packs, but pastor and elder explained to him, you didn't turn in the paperwork. Keisha and her ministry, they did everything they were supposed to. But then he continued to go on this rant. And it wasn't about, it was no longer about the ministry and what the ministry was doing. At this point, it was, well, she took my idea. And I didn't feel like the leadership, I felt like the leadership allowed it to go on because the conversation to go on, like if I wasn't there when I was sitting right there. So I felt like the leadership allowed the conversation to go on and him to continue to talk in reference to me like I wasn't there because they had a close personal relationship with him. So eventually I got up and I left from the meeting and I said I was never coming back. And so, because by now little things are happening, and I'm starting to feel like, there was other ministers in the church that I guess they had some feelings about personally about me or whatever. And so it was just getting to be too much. It was getting to be real catty and all of that. And anybody that knows me knew that church was my safe haven. I could serve, I could sit in the church all day long. And it no longer became safe to me. It became drama and chaos and all of that. So I no longer wanted to be there. And then I felt like, people in their flesh were allowed to take something so important away from me. So, slowly but surely I stopped going. And then eventually I never said anything to anybody. It was one deaconess that I did, confide in. And so I eventually stopped going, and I text the pastor's wife, and I told her, I said, no matter what happens, just know that I always love you. Because I didn't know how to say to her that I can't do what you say God told you to do. God told you to do with me. I didn't know how to say it. So it was like I was stuck in my flesh and my spirit, because my spirit was telling me, the Bible says God made us in, we're supposed to be in like his image. When people see us, they see God. And so for you to say that God told you that you are to minister to me, to where when people see me, they think they're talking to you. And then I just thought the way we were going about it was so out of order, and I didn't like the chaos that it was created. But then when I say my spirit, is because she was like a big sister to me. I really did cherish our relationship, and I didn't know how to find a balance. But at the time when I said that to her in the text message, I didn't know that that was going to end our friendship, everything completely. We never spoke again after that. She never called me. She never, came to talk to me or say, she never did any of that, right? And I also never took it to her. I never took it to her. I'm not going to say, she didn't do it. I didn't do it either. I didn't do it either. So now is this is what started happening now. It was like I wasn't it was like I was no longer a part of the group, the in crowd. I was on the outside now. And so that's how they started to treat me. And it started with my kids at first, especially my daughter. So it was like she was treated as my daughter as long as I was a part of the in crowd. When I wasn't part of the in crowd, it's like she took my place, and as on the level with the rest of them. And they started to say really, really nasty, unkind things about me to my children. They would have conversations about me with my kids that were just nasty things about me. They would, it was at one point they had convinced my daughter that I was possessed with the Jezebel spirit. And so my daughter wouldn't let me, interact with my granddaughter, because from her words was, she didn't want what spirit was on me to get into my granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And my son and my daughter slowly and surely pushed further and further away. Me and my son lived in the same house, and we wouldn't even talk. I could be sitting on the living room chair when he came in the house, and he wouldn't say nothing. He'd be like, it was just like I was invisible. And so I kept saying, Lord, I know this is going to pass. I can't believe this is happening. I was hurt. And then I started isolating myself, because I didn't trust anyone at this point, because now my circle were, I was on the outskirts of my circle. So, and it just started getting worse. So, and it really got worse between me and my daughter. It was like my daughter was the major tool that they used. Because I could remember going to my daughter's apartment. This was before things really got out of hand. And me and her were talking about something, and she picked up the phone and she called her, and she was like, tell my mother she don't got nothing to be jealous about, and blah, 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 blah. And the woman said on the phone, I don't think she knew that the phone was on speaker. And she was like, tell that girl she ain't got nothing to worry about. She just jealous. And then I just went off the deep end, and then I left. Right. And so that was kind of the beginning of the downfall. Then there was the incident. So by now I'm hearing about all the things that they're saying about me, all the nasty things. I'm hearing that, the pastor and his wife are calling my children up for prayer in front of the congregation, and they're praying for them because they understand that they live with an unclean spirit. These are the things that they're saying to my children in church, praying for them against me. Right. Yeah. So, but I never said nothing. I never defended myself. Like, I just didn't. I just felt like it didn't taint my relationship with God in the beginning. It tainted my relationship with the church. And so when I withdrew, I had one really good friend that stuck by me, my friend Stan. And I mean, my other friends was there, but they wasn't like, you don't want to keep calling your friends talking about the same old crap all the time. But Stanley was, it was different with Stanley. Stanley was like, he was my rock, man. And he really was. And he was thousands of miles away. He was in a whole nother country, not somebody I could see and crown and show. It was nothing like that. So, eventually it started getting worse and worse and worse. And then I can remember one day, I was going to get coffee because by now I wasn't working. So I used to go get coffee in the morning after Journey was born, and her mom moved out, and her mom put her in daycare. I wasn't working at the time. I had stopped working. So Journey, I was going to get coffee, and she called me and asked me to come do something. I was like, all right. But I was looking for jobs. I was looking for jobs. At the time, I wasn't looking outside of South Carolina, but I was looking for jobs. And so when I got to her apartment, I was like, hey, can I use your Wi-Fi, your computer and your Wi-Fi, so I can do these applications and I don't have to go to the library? Because by now I was just really living off my pension. And it life wasn't as good as it was when I had a job. So things were starting to fall behind, because now I'm in a depressive state. Like, I'm miserable. I am miserable because now I haven't been to church in months. And again, being in church, physically in church, being there serving, was a thing for me, right? So I went to her house. She said, yeah, she was nice to me, even though things were kind of, she was nice and everything. At least I thought. So then she was trying to take a picture of Journey. And then she said, and Journey kept moving every time she would go to snap a picture. So she said, here, Mom, take the phone and snap the picture when I get her situated. And I said, okay. So while I have the phone in my hand, waiting for her to get situated, I'm looking down, I'm trying to wait for her to say, snap it. And a text message comes up. And it's where she was going back and forth with the pastor's wife. And the pastor's wife was telling her, um, well, she'll be gone soon. You just need to get that spirit out of your house. You need to make sure, you know, nothing's left behind or whatever. And when I tell you that, it broke my heart. It broke my heart because I couldn't believe that. Like, I mean, I know children, kids, young adults are impressionable, but it broke my heart that this woman, these people had manipulated my children to the point to where my children honestly believed what they were telling them about me. But I mean, hindsight is 2020. At a point, I felt like it was my fault that my children believed what they said, because I raised my children in the church. I raised my children to honor and respect the woman and the man of God. And to some degree, that's what they were doing. They were still young adults, but that's what they were doing. And so it broke my heart, and I just, went on back to my hole, and I cried, and, I had my moment with God or whatever. And God just kept telling me, hold on, Keisha, hold on. And I'm just like, how much more what are you trying to teach me? So finally, I did a fast and I prayed, and because none of the jobs was coming through. And I remember Stanley saying, you need to come overseas. And I was like, yeah, I make good money. That's what I'm going to do. So I started applying for contractor jobs. And then praying again, fasting again. God told me, apply where you want to go, and I'll send you there. And I said, wherever you want me to go, I'll go. So I started applying in the DMV in Texas and Atlanta. So it was around Christmas time, so I wasn't really getting any callbacks. So right after Christmas, the calls started popping in, and I didn't say nothing to nobody because at this point, I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust that anybody had my anybody had good intentions for me, because at this point I had trusted who I thought were probably the most important people in my life at that time, and look what they done. And I had never been betrayed like that before. And so I didn't, I had to, maneuver the best way I could through it. So I didn't tell anybody. Long story short, I ended up taking a job in Maryland, and which is where I am now. And because I told God, wherever you send me, I'ma go. And I didn't have any money to move, no nothing. So I started selling all my furniture. I sold everything because I was like, I'm not taking anything from this experience with me. I don't want nothing from this experience to remind me of what I went through. And so I started selling all the furniture, and I told my family, I signed my offer letter, and they told me when to report and all that. And I told my family the day my son swore into the military. Nobody believed me. And then I started selling all my furniture, and I'm basically giving stuff away. And then I was on drugs, all the drugs that the Army gave me from being in the Army. It was just craziness, but I just let it be talk. And then they like, how's she gonna move? She ain't got this, she ain't got that. And so how I moved was Stanley. God used Stanley to help me move to the next level. And Stanley gave me the money to move. He gave me the money for the down payment, the deposit, the month's rent, travel money. Stanley gave me everything. He believed in what I was saying. He believed in me, and he believed what I believed. And so, everything just worked out. And I remember the guy that I was renting from. I'd never seen the place. I'd never seen him. I just talked to him on the phone. And, and I left, and the talk just got worse and worse. But when I tell you, when I got to Maryland that night, when I got to up here, and that guy was standing on that porch, and I had it was like the weight, like as I was traveling up the highway, I was just dropping off weight, like weight. I felt so light, so at peace, so free when I walked in. And when I tell you, that townhouse looked exactly like that picture, and I just started crying. And my landlord, he said to me, "You okay?" And I was like, "You just do not know what the last 18 months were like for me." And he was like, "I knew it was something special about you." He said, because his townhouse was up for rent and sale. And he said, "I knew it was something special about you." He said, because I had got a cash offer for this townhouse. And he said, "God told me you need to stick with her." And he said, "I turned down the cash offer because I had already told you that I was going to rent to you." And me and him just stood in there, and we talked and we talked and we talked about the goodness of the Lord. And I didn't have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. I didn't have no furniture. I moved to Maryland with 2 cars. Well, 1 car physically, with my truck packed with clothes, shoes, and a TV. I went that night to Walmart, and I got an air mattress. And I propped my TV up, and I blew that air mattress up, and I hooked my TV up to the Wi-Fi off my telephone. And that's how I watched TV. And that's what I did for 4 months, because I was saving up my money, because I had got into such a financial rut that I had to, get back mentally into it. And so, but the point of this is the level of peace, baby, that I had, honey. I could have slept on that damn carpet. It didn't matter to me. Like, it didn't matter to me that every day I came home, I had one bowl, one spoon, one fork, one knife, one plate, and two cups. I didn't have no pots. I used to go to Wegmans and get them warm-up meals and have dinner. That, baby. But when I tell you the level of peace that I had, I remembered who I was, and I remembered whose I was when I got to Maryland. So the things that was being said about me, it didn't bother me. I just felt like they could say whatever it didn't bother me. And then I had control over how much interaction I had with them, because I'm in Maryland now. So when you call, I ain't got to answer the phone. We ain't got to talk. And we didn't. It caused issues between me and my parents. Like, it was just craziness. And the lies that were told, like, don't get me wrong, it hurt my feelings. Lord knows it did. And I thank God for Stanley, because Lord, Stanley used to hear me just bawl. Like, I just don't understand. These my children. They know me. You know, these people, my mom and them, they know me. Why would they believe? But I guess it's like, someone creates an image that you just like, but not just that they created an image. There were certain pieces that they can piece it together to make it seem like, like the whole thing about me on all the drugs because I was disabled. The Army say I'm crazy and I'm disabled and all this other stuff, because they knew that the Army had my disability. I was 100% disabled. And so I would get my medicine in the mail. Now, nobody knew whether I was taking all that medicine or not, but I would get all this medicine in the mail. So it was easy for the narrative, for them to, stand on that narrative. And the whole thing about the Jezebel spirit, you and I both know, at least hopefully you know that, the Jezebel spirit can be a lot of things, manipulative, a liar, all of that. And so, but the crazy thing was, I remember confiding in her about my daughter, because me and my daughter was having such a rough time, and it had nothing to do with this at the time. And I remember her telling me that Dominique had the Jezebel spirit on her. I didn't know anything about the Jezebel spirit like that. When they say Jezebel to me, I'm thinking red lipstick and short skirts, but that was, and then she taught me, what the Jezebel spirit could be. And so, yeah, so it was like everything was twisted, to meet the narrative. And so when I got here, I just was in such a good space. When I tell you, God started blessing me, but I wouldn't go to church. I still don't really feel comfortable inside of a church because of the people in the church. And then the people in the church, because I'm wondering, are they talking about me? Do they know me? What they're saying, I'm thinking all these things, and my anxiety goes up, and I get, I'm no longer focused on the word. So I can't receive what it is God should be giving me through the speaker, because now I'm focused on these people in this building. So I stopped going. And I think in the last 4.5 years, I think I've been to church maybe 4 times. I go to church on my TV every Sunday. Every Sunday. I pay tithes to a church. But to go into a building, like, I'm not there yet, because I don't trust church people. Now I understand God knows my heart, because I feel like when God, he knows when I'm going to be ready. He knows when I'm going to feel, because those 3, 4 times that I did go, I still had that anxiety. Like, I went to see my spiritual mother back in November, right? She was having a conference. We wasn't even in church, but it was a church environment because it was people from the church. And I remember my girlfriend saying, you need to go up there and you need to go and pray. And I was like, she was like, she done prayed for everybody. And I said, well, she didn't tell me to come up there. And she was like, you need to go up there because she want to lay her hands on everybody. And I was like, I ain't going up there. But that's just the level of anxiety that I have when it comes to being around church people. I love the Lord. I know, I know that God continuously blesses me. Like, I know that he's with me. I know that he protects and covers me and my family. But when it comes to church people, I'm not there yet. I just cannot. I haven't worked through that yet. And I am, I talk to my therapist about it. I pray about it, and I believe that God is going to put me in the right environment to where I will be able to move past that. And I also think once I fully forgive, that it will be easier too, because I'm just being transparent. I have not, forgiveness for them is daily. It's daily because I feel like you betrayed my trust, and you ruined, you tried to ruin my family. And it had nothing to do with the church. It was because you was moving in your flesh. And you just use your titles and your positions to orchestrate it. Because I feel like a woman that has children, how could you in good conscience say anything bad about another mother to their children? Even if you didn't like me no more, but you felt like I was being, harming my children or whatever, why not come talk to me? You were supposed to be my leaders, right? Before I removed my membership, if you really in your whole heart felt like I was overcome by the Jezebel spirit, it was your responsibility to cover me. And you didn't. You talked about me. You didn't cover me. To me, that wasn't decent and in order, because that's not what our leaders, that's not what God ordained our leaders for. I'm your responsibility. I'm your sheep. But you left me out there for the wolves to get me when the wolves turned out to be you. And to this day, nobody has picked up the phone to call me to say anything. I'm sorry. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, anything like that. But my biggest two things is, you were my leaders. And if you really felt like I was overcome by a spirit, it was your responsibility to cover me. And you failed to do that. The second thing is, you as parents, not just her, but both of them as parents, you wouldn't let nobody do that to your child. You would feel some kind of way if someone did that to your child. So why did you feel like it was okay for you to do that to someone else's child? Why did you feel like it was okay to sit around and talk about in a negative manner, or to even allow anybody to talk about in a negative manner that child in reference to their parents? It wasn't like I was on drugs. I was out here, fiending or anything like that. It wasn't that, It wasn't that I was out here beating them, or I was robbing and stealing and, murdering and stripping. No, I wasn't stripping. But what I'm saying? It wasn't none of that, And for my experiences, I've had friends who've been in those positions, but I would never I would never downplay anybody's parent to them, because I know what I wasn't raised by my parents. So my auntie never said nothing about my mama, me, out of the way to me. So I would never do that. So coming to Maryland is a blessing. Coming to Maryland, God gave me a new start. Well, I wouldn't say a new start. Uh, I'm still on my same journey that He's had me on. I'm just at a different junction in it. The peace and the blessings that have, now don't get me wrong, there have been some situations where it's like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, I done met some crazy people up here, but it was truly a blessing, because I really thought that I was going to lose my mind. And I was so filled with anger and hate. So I felt like, and then I'm going to be all honest, that I felt like if I didn't leave South Carolina soon, I would probably do something that would cost me my life. I really did. That's how, because you talking about my seed. You talking about these two human beings who grew up in me. They are part of me. And my granddaughter. Yeah. So I knew that I had to leave. And I knew that when God said go, that I couldn't backpedal. Alex, you better stop. I knew that I couldn't backpedal. Even though I was scared, don't get me wrong, I was scared witless, because I knew nobody up here. I wasn't in the direct DMV. I'm all the way in Northern Maryland. Anybody that I know, they're in Southern Maryland, DC area, Northern Virginia. I'm way up here. I don't know nobody. I don't know how to get around. I don't know how to drive in snow. Like I didn't know nobody. And when I tell you the blessings that I received since I've been here, the people that God have put in my path, the doors He has opened for me, and the doors He will continue to open for me through my obedience, nobody can't tell me that God don't know my heart, because He do. So that's part 2. And that part 2 is basically, why I don't go to church anymore. So now we're going to talk about part 3 next week. And part 3 is going to be about the aftermath of all that. What I mean by the aftermath, because it's like the residue. It's always going to be some residue. You and I both know that. If you've been through a divorce, if you've been a breakup, if you've been through a separation, or you fail something, you always know there is a residue. So I'm going to tell you about the residue. And all of this is to show that God is always with us. Even when we don't understand the plan or we don't see the plan, you just got to believe that God is always with you. And know that God is taking you through that because He's creating your story for you, so that your story can be a testament to someone else that goes through. Because I'm not the first person that been through this, lo and behold. I mean, you couldn't tell me that when I was going through it. I'm like, who does this? I've never, because I've always been a part of growing churches, loving churches. I've never experienced anything like that before. Never, ever. Never, 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 ever. And so I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for my journey. I'm thankful for my experiences. I'm still working on my forgiveness. Forgiveness is daily for them too. And I have to be honest, forgiveness is daily for them too. I have to remember that I cannot block my blessings because of someone else's decisions. And so forgiveness is daily for those two. And I know that they wasn't moving in the spirit. I know that because I know what the spirit is. It wasn't like they was dealing with a immature Christian. I now without a shadow of a doubt can tell you that I am a spiritual person. I am no longer a religious person. And that was one of the lessons that I learned. So now that I have went 10 minutes over, and you good people probably are tired of hearing me talk about church. Well, even if you do, it is all right. So I thank you guys for listening to my story, and please come back for part 3, the residual, because it gets a little deeper. The residual is serious because God has me on another awakening. Yeah, he has me on another awakening. So, and I thank God for all my experiences. No matter how, right now, I have so much anxiety in my shoulders sitting here talking to y'all. But I thank God for my experiences. I thank God for who I am. And I thank God for who I know I am. And nobody can take that away from me. I allowed people to take that away from me before to where I questioned who I was. But now nobody can take that away from me. Even if I get, in my deepest and saddest moments, I have to remind myself. The Holy Spirit reminds me that I am who God made me. And I'm better than that. So I never defend myself for anything that I know I didn't do wrong. And I'm learning valuable lessons, even in the residual. So, as always, I thank God for him for giving me this platform because I love it. And I just thank God for you, all my viewers. And I hope that you would subscribe, share, like, tell somebody about my podcast because you never know who just needs a powerful word. You never know who just needs to hear that you're going to get through this. He got you. You just got to trust. Trust the process. Trust me. So on that note, I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you next week for part 3, the residual. Smooches.